It is Monday. RawMikeRichards.com, broadcasting live from 234 King Street East, downtown Toronto, in the Pacific Junction Hotel. Is it a real hotel? I don't know. Would I stay here? Absolutely not. There's no way. Have you seen the people who work here? You can't trust them. They're like circus people. They're like carnival people. Except for Jess. And I think you recognize the lovely Jess as obviously the future fiance of roast beef. Or so he was all telling me all this stuff before the show. Oh, he had pictures of her on his phone, like when she was shopping, I guess. And they always seemed to be from a distance. Once she was working in the garden or something. That was kind of interesting. Coming up on today's show, I guess we will talk about, the Raptors making a move to, I think in a lot of ways, just get rid of some money. You look at what probably was supposed to happen with DeMarre Carroll, and none of it did. In fact, the money that sometimes I think that these guys get for what they provided, I think when they leave, there should be some sort of rule where they have to give some money back. And I look at what was expected of DeMarre Carroll. Look, after coming from Atlanta with the season that he had, and you saw the upside certainly defensively and what Coach Casey wanted to see, but almost immediately, Dave gets hurt. He gets hurt immediately, and since that very moment, it never came through for him, and it was never consistent enough that you could say, yeah, what a great acquisition, because it ended up, quite frankly, going the other way.
Yeah, it was one of the worst ones of the Masai Ujiri era. You look at that, too, is not only the injury part, but even when he was healthy, he just didn't seem to fit in. That was the whole thing, fitting into the equation and kind of figuring things out. And he was praised to be this defensive specialist, and not even close. Not even close. And well overpaid for what he was doing as a Toronto Raptor.
Well, I think that I look at, and it's funny when you say not working out. He doesn't work out because of his really his inability on the floor to be what they thought he was going to be. Where I look at James Johnson, and he didn't work out because I don't think the coach and James Johnson were on the same page as human beings. And look, I like Coach Casey, but there was a time where I think both you and I, Dave, when we were at TSN 1050, when we would talk about James Johnson, it was a head scratcher for me. I thought, well, I know the guy physically is vital enough that he can dominate, coming off the bench and some of those things he can do, and it was like the coach was not going to let him do that. Now he goes to Miami.
And he's a star.
And he's doing exactly what both you and I thought he could do. So that was a disconnect between himself and the coach. That wasn't, to me, a playing issue at all. In fact, maybe the opposite. When I look at players that could have made and should have made a difference, I don't think he was really able to do that. That's the opposite direction of DeMarre Carroll, who just physically, to me, just didn't have it.
And you know what's going to happen? He's going to go to Brooklyn. He's just going to rot away. That's all it is. That's kind of where you go to finish things off if you're a Brooklyn Net. I mean, it's kind of disappointing considering that when they made that move, they were thinking this is going to be the highlight of a suburb of New York kind of thing. But this is a lousy team. Like, if you're a basketball fan in the greater New York area and you have the Knicks and then you cross the bridge to see the Nets. Terrible. Those might be the worst two teams in basketball.
Well, I think, for Corey Joseph, who probably it would have been a dream come true, coming back to the Toronto area, being a Pickering guy essentially, and, to play in front of your home crowd, your family, friends. I mean, it's a really bit of a fantasy. But it really seemed to deflate last year, including, I think, even some of his decision-making on the court, Dave. He did not have a very good year, and he finds himself going the other way to the Indiana Pacers, and it looks like a career that, I don't know, at least to me anyway, unless there's something remarkable that happens in Indiana, and I certainly wouldn't be expecting that next year, it could be on the other side of the hill going down. They get C.J. Miles, who actually can't shoot the ball. I mean, he's a bit of a scorer coming that way,
yep.
and for some, they actually think it's an upgrade over Corey Joseph, which is a bit of a slap in the face, a little insulting, Dave, considering, again, personally what, you thought could happen for him, and it looks like it may never get back to that.
Worst Twitter joke since that trade, CJ Miles changing his name to CJ Kilometers, and people found that funny. Russ actually just started laughing. He just started laughing. That is so weak.
Russell. What? Why are you being so mean so early? I mean, I know there's some jealousies back there. People can't see it, and maybe your issue of Biggins got canceled, or your mom found it under your bed or something. But honestly, there's no reason to laugh at that joke.
He just snickered at it.
Yeah, no, he did. No, hilarity ensues. You know that works out. So also, Markelle Fultz, right? Number 1 overall pick. Done for summer with a sprain.
Terrific.
What is it with the Sixers? Are you serious? The number 1 guy, the crazy athlete out of Washington, going to get together with all these other amazing guys. Simmons, who hasn't even played one game.
A game, yeah.
One game. But this whole thing coming together with a sprain. Now, will he be back fine? It just seems to be one of those things. It's just one of those things. But I again, just sort of looking in the basketball world.
By the way, 76 is one of the favorites to win the Summer League.
Do they have that? I didn't realize. I didn't realize they had numbers
yeah.
on that.
Oh yeah, they have numbers on that.
I can't even believe. Look, I like myself some round ball, but I am not watching Summer League. I wouldn't bet on it. And for me not to bet on something,
it's got to be telling you something.
Something's gone horribly, horribly wrong. Horribly wrong yesterday for the Toronto Blue Jays. Jay Happ, who, what a weird career he's had. And I'll go back all the way, and I still remember the sound the ball made off his head in Tampa Bay.
Oy.
It was like boing. I was like, oh boy. And he was on a real mission that year because he was the guy in spring training who said, there's no way I'm not at least the 5th guy on this rotation. I will be one of the starters, starting 5 for the Blue Jays when this. And he worked his way through spring training, and he earned that place. Gets hit in the head. Season obviously goes sideways. Then he leaves the Blue Jays and actually looks like he could regain somewhat of a career. But since he's been back, Dave, with the Jays, it just has not happened for Jay Happ. And yesterday, as you look at the box score, when you're losing in the teens in baseball, that wasn't a good start.
Here's the craziest part about that Jay Happ start. In 4 innings, he only allowed 2 earned runs. He was charged with 6. 2 of them were earned. So there were some mistakes on the field that cost them runs and so forth. But the difference between last year's Jay Happ and this year's Jay Happ is significant, considering he was a 20-game winner last year. He seemed to get a little more run support last year. The ERA isn't that bad this year at 3.54. That's okay, but injuries have been a little bit of a situation, and yeah, they're not providing him with any kind of offense, any kind of support. And yesterday was just another example. Like, what an embarrassing way to end off the unconventional first half, because it's not technically the first half, but
in baseball minds,
we are in the All-Star break. Tonight's the Home Run Derby. We'll talk about that in a bit, but geez, when you look at it, 8.5 games back of first place, 5 games back of the wild card. Technically, they're still in this thing, but is anybody out there buying that this team is a playoff team? Because I'm not, and I haven't for the last couple of weeks.
No, look, I said it before, and I'll say it again. If this were a television series, this is the last season. And you know what the last season of television series usually look like. Everybody hates them. They don't like the ending.
Nope.
They don't like the plot. They think everything's not believable, and then the show's over, and everyone's mad. Well, hello, Blue Jays. This is your last season, and people are going to end up, being upset. But this is, again, what's so tricky about where they are is that can you go and retool kind of only halfway? Because if you're going to go down to and do what, for instance, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment did with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't think that's where you're at. I don't think you're taking it right down to the wood. But if you don't, the tweaking or the retooling, that's a tough way to make a living in professional sports, folks, because guess what happens? You kind of end up being in the middle, and the middle is way worse than being the team that's a bottom feeder and last, because at least you know where you're going. You can build that way, whether you're the Phillies or Atlanta or a team like that. You can kind of see what they want to do. If you're the Blue Jays, what assets do you have? Because a lot of those assets that you have, they're short term, and these guys are over 30.
Yeah.
So they're not going to get the term they want. You may not get the return they want. I think the Blue Jays right now are in a really bad place.
And with some of these salaries that they're, possibly moving, there's going to be teams maybe interested, but teams interested if the Jays take on a 50% salary or something. And I'm looking at a guy like Troy Tulowitzki, who still has massive amounts of money until 2020. It's about $20 million a year, plus there's a bonus for him if he actually gets moved again. Jose Bautista, depending on if he wants to waive, he might be a nice little pickup for a team that is looking for a DH or a guy off the bench.
I can certainly see that.
Something of that nature.
For one playoff run, can you just hit the ball once every 3 times?
And that's kind of the whole thing. It's funny that a couple days ago we heard Josh Donaldson rumors to the Cardinals. Makes a lot of sense considering that Donaldson is entering free agency. I don't know if he's going to be back. So if you're going to lose him for something.
Yeah.
Don't lose him for nothing. Don't go Chris Bosh on us and basically dump him at the end of the year and receive nothing in compensation. Russell Martin might be the toughest contract to move.
Yeah,
massive amounts of money for a guy that's going to hit 2 and change. Still give you some defensive quality, but will not be a consistent player in a lineup just because of injuries and just because of the wear down and tear down on him.
And Dave, a guy who historically is a really slow starter. I mean,
yes.
A couple of months go by before you actually see what he's going to do with his bat. So I don't know how you're going to work that. And to be honest, when you look at a Josh Donaldson, who wouldn't be interested in Josh Donaldson? I mean, I know the Cards name came out. I don't know how serious it was, but as you said, it makes sense. But he could make sense for a lot of teams, depending what comes back the other way. So you look at Shapiro and Ross Atkinson, and you got to think they do have an ability. I mean, we see what's in Cleveland. That's their that's their blueprint. That's what they did. So before everyone gets on we hate these guys, it was only because there was that unbelievable love that you had for Alex Anthopoulos. I mean, he was Canadian. He was like one of the McKenzie brothers, except Greek. Like, I don't know how to describe it.
That's fair.
Everyone seemed to love the guy. And then all of a sudden these guys come in and they're like the evil doers. And then all the Cleveland influence comes in and everyone's. But there is going to be some changes of significance because if there's not, if you really literally do nothing, then you're going to go back to an era where Blue Jay fans used to complain to everybody else, yeah, well, you don't know what it's like when you got both the Yankees and the Bo Sox in your division. That we're going to go back to that day. Because guess what?
Yes, we will.
That's what's going to happen. And if Tampa Bay, shockingly, continues to be able to hit the ball, which almost those teams where if it wasn't Longoria, it wasn't anybody. I mean, you hope for Archer to come out and guys like that to pitch well enough that you wouldn't get killed too much. Well, now they got sticks. So if they get some bats, maybe you're throwing them into that category. Baltimore, I think, is on the way down. I think that cycle of where they're at, like, is Machado, what's that contract like?
Well, Machado's going to be playing somewhere else.
Well,
so I don't see Baltimore re-signing that guy. If they do, I'd be shocked. So if you take the best player out of that lineup and an aging pitching staff, Baltimore might be in the same situation as the Blue Jays, where the two of them will be sitting there, rotating spots in the basement. Tampa Bay actually has some promise just because they do have, like, their core outside of Evan Longoria, relatively young prospects, gaining a little bit of experience and so forth. The only thing I don't like about that is, and we've seen it before with the Tampa Bay Rays or before the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, these prospects get to a certain level and they leave.
Yeah.
It's like the Montreal Expos back in the 90s where you get to a certain level, you had it, and then off to the Yankees, off to the Dodgers, off to the Angels, and there's your team right there.
Well, you mentioned it's All-Star. I guess, I don't know if you call it, you can't call it weekend, but All-Star week, festivities, and you know what's coming up, Dave? It is this. Oh, and that's back. The home run derby, which this year could be like the best year they've ever had, ever in the history of doing this event. I mean, who's going to win? I mean, a lot of people liking Judge, but Stanton's going to be in there.
Stanton's the Vegas favorite right now.
Is Bellinger getting no love? Because it sure seems like he's not getting a lot of love.
He is. He's probably ranked around the number 3, number 4 spot. Basically, it's Stanton, Judge, Bellinger, and then after that, it's kind of wide open, and you got a lot of double-digit odds. When you look at a Moustakas paying a 16.
Moustakas.
Yeah, exactly. A Charlie Blackmon who's paying a 14 even. A Gary Sanchez is paying a 16. So you're kind of looking at, there's some opportunity if you want to go off the board. My money is on Aaron Judge. This guy, if you've seen him, and if you haven't seen him, the next time the Yankees are in town, well worth your while to come down and watch him take batting practice, because it is amazing what this guy, and I've said it before, bigger version of Jose Canseco, the way he actually goes up in batting practice and smashes balls.
See, that's weird. Like bigger than Jose Canseco. I mean, Jose Canseco in the day, like I remember with Oakland.
It's like he was swinging a toothpick. That's how big he looked holding a bat. You know what I mean? It's like, man, a mountain of a person. He still is, but Aaron Judge is my winner tonight.
Tebow has, I don't know if you've caught it in the highlights now that he's playing St. Lucie for the Mets. It's still A-ball. It's the top level of their A-ball, but he's kind of crouched over. It's weird. He's got those big thighs kind of, and I don't know, it's really strange, and it sort of reminded me of, when he used to show up from time to time, and I think maybe one of the more hurtful moments with Tim Tebow for you and me was on that horrible Jets team where they literally couldn't move the ball at all, and Tebow was there, part of the Rex Ryan circus, and he thought he was going to get a start finally because it looks like they weren't going to start him. And as always, giving us a phone call.
Going, yeah, it's
Is this
Tim Tebow calling.
Hey, Tim, how's it
and
going?
I'd like to clarify a couple things, if I could.
Yeah.
Just because I know there's a lot of misinformation going on, and I really, hope you all understand. But I just want to clear the air a little bit because.
Go ahead.
Anyway, Mark Sanchez tries his best. He's a good person. I know he's a good person. I've seen him. We've had sleepovers and pillow fights and chippy popcorn. We've made Jello together, so I know him. He's solid. He really is.
Well.
And I think if he's not going to play and I have to step in, I have to step up my game, and I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited to participate for the team, and so I'm looking forward to the next game against San Diego.
But you're not playing.
I'm sorry, who's what?
McElroy's starting.
McElroy's playing?
Yeah, Rex Ryan just announced it.
Oh, me! Mother!
Oh.
I tried all this time, and that why?
Him!
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. Oh, what happened there? Woo!
Yeah, wow.
Oh, that came out of nowhere. Hey, could you play Popcorn by Hot Butter? Thanks.
Oh, yes, the moments of Tim Tebow, and he might be one of the better stories the Mets have had this year, and that's not saying a whole bunch, Dave. What a lost season for those guys.
Yeah, really disappointing just because of what's happened to that pitching staff. And you know what? That was the number one fear at the start of the season. The Mets will do well if the pitching staff holds, but holding this pitching staff, considering that, at the start of the year, there were already 3 possibilities of dead arms in April. Well, everything's kind of come through. And when you're throwing, hundreds and so forth, it's not going to get any better with the Mets either. That's the bad part, because these pitchers will come back and they'll return to the disabled list, which is kind of disappointing. So, what the Mets had a lot of promise. I don't think they're going to see the postseason for this year, next year, and unfortunately years to come.
Well, taking a look at, this is the time where you see young prospects playing for a lot of the hockey teams. I know the Leafs down at the MasterCard were working out some of their young guys. It's not surprising. I mean, we knew that Kovalchuk probably was going to go back to the KHL, but I guess the teams that would be available for him or where that fit would be, I know people talk about would Kovalchuk be something that the Maple Leafs would embrace, but I also think he falls into a category, as talented as the guy has been in his career, I don't know if I'm taking a flyer on him, Dave. Something just tells me he's got that DNA that says it's not like there was a lack of talent, but I just get the feeling that his heart isn't into wherever he would end up. That's just a gut feeling. I just don't think I would take a flyer on it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And maybe that's what the league thought. Maybe that's what he thought. I'm just going to go back to St. Petersburg, and
or maybe he thought he'd come over here and get a Radulov deal. When Radulov came over for the 1 year with the Canadiens, signed just under $6 million, which when that happened, I was shocked. I was like, wow, you're signed. It's a good thing it's only a 1 year deal. He turned out to be maybe the biggest surprise for the Montreal Canadiens, and he earned this deal with the Stars. Now, I'm sitting there going, the Stars have committed so much money and so much term to this guy. Is this where he takes his swan dive and just collects his money. This guy screams even more so in that category, and I think that's probably what happened. I bet you there were teams out there that were interested in signing him to a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal, and that wasn't good enough for him. I expect him to be back trying the same sort of thing that he's doing this year, or he did until he signed this contract, next year at this time. We haven't seen the last of this guy.
You know, I'm trying to think of players that have used the KHL as leverage or got better. That's a really
one player.
Yeah, it's Mark Giordano, I think.
That's exactly it. The captain of the Calgary Flames.
I think that's the only guy who's done that in the last 10 years.
I covered the Flames when Giordano was there the first time around, and this guy was borderline not being able to play in this lineup.
That's right.
Brian Marchment was with the team at the time, and he was a Daryl Sutter guy. And I love Brian Marchment because he's a former Winnipeg Jet draft pick.
And he was a full-on Sutter guy. That's why he was there.
Completely. Yeah. And they would juggle this lineup back and forth. Marchment, Giordano, Marchment, Giordano. Giordano's younger. Maybe he develops. No. You got to put the veteran in because he's just more of a proven stable. And a lot of times that was the juggling decision. Giordano leaves, comes back, and boom, best player on that team as far as the defense is concerned.
An Italian superhero when he came back. Like, it was weird.
And it's a weird transformation because you saw, even when he came back, Mike, I thought, okay, has he improved? Does he become a fifth defenseman? Maybe a consistent sixth instead of having that juggling information? No. He's going to become a 1, and he's going to become a Norris Trophy candidate and the captain of the franchise. Surprised the hell out of me. Good for him because he deserves it. He's a pretty good guy too. I've had a chance to talk to him before of this fame and fortune and everything like that, and you kind of cheer for the guy. And when he's stabilizing a pretty good Flames defense that now has Travis Hymanek, the Flames should be knocking on a playoff opportunity next year too after having an off year.
And if you want to go over, it's one thing if you're Russian playing in the KHL. Try being from one of the towns or cities in Canada and living over there. That is it's like Borat.
Yeah.
Like you just don't quite know what's happening. You don't know about the safety of the vehicles that you travel in. So we've seen like the plane incidents and obviously the devastation of what happens when a plane crash and so on. But that's just the nature of the way it is over in post-Soviet Union Russia. Like, you just don't know. And as much as you can see it, if you go to a lot of the offshore gambling sites or some of those things on the internet you're not supposed to go to watch all these games, it's not like the players aren't good. It's not like the ice surface and some of the facilities, Dave, aren't good. But you're playing in front of 5,000 people.
Yeah.
So where's all this money coming from? Because at some point you got to think, how much longer are they really going to do this?
Yeah, and you hear some of the stories too about players receiving their money in sacks, and it's almost like
chasing chickens around the backyard.
Monopoly man.
Money is behind chicken coop in the bag. You must play better for your family, and I will cut off bread. Shit. It is. Look, it's just culturally the way it is over there. If you wanted to go and play hockey somewhere, and maybe you're not even NHL caliber, then I look at these guys who've gone to Switzerland. Maybe you even have buddies, Dave, that have done that.
Yes, Switzerland and Germany both.
Switzerland, Germany, and then there's parts of Italy. There's guys who played in Milan. Can you imagine living in Milan playing hockey? Oh my God, I'd never make the ice. I would never be there. Every time I tell a story, it's about how I wouldn't show up. I'm just being honest. Richards has now been traded to San Diego. Didn't matter what San Diego team is. That's it. Las Vegas, over. Florida, not doing it. Tampa. I'd be down in Naples smoking cigars every day. And see, that's the thing when we had Dave Andreychuk on last. We had a lot of comments, by the way, about our interview with Dave Andreychuk. And I said, well, it's because of him. There's a very honest, forthcoming guy that you can be happy about. Now, guys are going to debate, I would sure, his entrance into the Hall. That's what guys do. They're going to look at numbers, they're going to look at comparisons. But I think if you're just also looking at the kind of human being he is and what he had meant to those teams, I was thrilled to have Dave on the show. And we had no cameras.
No.
That was full-on podcast, just black screen. And the numbers went through the roof. Thanks for that. What are you saying?
Well, exactly. You know what? And we're going to try, when he's in town in November, we'll try to get him down here in studio, too.
Yeah.
Because he's the kind of guy that will sit there in this chair and have another blockbuster interview. It's guys like that you talk about the Hall of Fame career and the 640 goals and the Stanley Cup and so forth, but maybe a better person than all of the stats combined.
I agree 100%. You're watching rawmike.richards.com or listening on the podcast. It's certainly available through iTunes. We appreciate all those who have subscribed and continue subscribe. If you get this question all the time, how do we subscribe to the YouTube channel? Well, as you're watching this, there's going to be a little red banner that says subscribe. Just click on it. You're in. And those numbers, even though it's slowly, they continue to grow. But last week, I'll be honest, for our show itself, maybe our biggest yet. It's huge. And as we venture on and make some changes, again, we've got some announcements. Still, we're just kind of waiting to unveil because they are of substance. We are pretty pleased with the way that things are going. We love the reception that we have. And as we continue to grow, we hope that you stay with us and watch. Although some of the people who were commenting on the imaginary Mike Babcock showing up at the show, where, of course, he didn't like some of those contracts. Do we have that somewhere? We can pull that up. Okay, so there's a couple of guys. One guy in particular, I don't know if I can even find it and read it. He wants to, he's going to report us.
Oh, no.
He says, I'm going to report you.
Oh, great.
Fucking false advertising. So let me see if I get this straight. You think that head coach Mike Babcock was going to come on a show called Raw Mike Richards that shot in a bar, and then he was going to start talking about openly players' contracts, including those that he didn't think were very good. You never even see Mike Babcock actually you just see like a picture of it and start hearing a voice. This is what made you upset.
That's
well, there is probably someone that is an idiot, and did you have a mirror at home? Because just look into it. You're an idiot. You're a complete moron. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Here is the upset that this guy experienced because of this particular piece.
What? I look at Van Riemsdyk as a $6 million player. I just don't see him being a $6 million player on the Maple Leafs, which is too bad.
I think Babcock would say if you're looking at
I think Babcock would say
you could get it done and skate up there and probably get 22, 22, 24. JVR, he's a good kid. His brother played Massachusetts, and he did well for Chicago, and then he bounced around, stuff like that. But he's got a good group now. I think we got a good group. Sorry to see Honey go. Honey was good. Honey could get her done, and I think Hainsey's going to be shit. I told Lou, don't get Hainsey. He's a great big steaming piece of poop. I think he's going to do a lousy job. I do.
See,
he doesn't fit our group. I don't think he does.
I'm shocked, Mike. Yeah. I'm shocked that you would actually say this to us.
I like Dom though.
Dom's a great contract.
Morrissey comes in there and pretty good ping pong player. He's a good player, and it's a whole thing like the what's his name, roast beef. Russell saying, if you go into the House of Lancaster and you don't got $1, then you're not having no fun. And that's how I see it.
That's it, eh?
Yeah. Hainsey's gonna be shit.
So that's what you were mad about.
Wow.
So
did he think that was actually Mike Babcock?
Well, when the voice comes on and says, I think this is what Babcock would say. Is he speaking in third person now, Mike Babcock? Is this something that he's doing?
Might be, yeah.
Like an NFL defensive back?
Well, he is Mike Babcock, and he does run the city.
Oh my God! But that made my day. The fact that you're stupid enough to think that that would happen, then awesome. The stupid are awesome. We also got, it's actually is from a guy named Jeff who talking about technology, he said, technically challenged, but now that I've figured out how to download the podcast, he goes, it has made my drive home like the best part of my day. And so that's what we're continually trying to get out there, that, obviously the one thing about doing this kind of format, Dave, is you watch it or listen to it when you want. I mean, that's the beauty of doing this stuff. Originally, when we're on normally from 5:30 to 9, you miss that morning show. It's pretty much gone.
Bingo.
And
here it's like, because I got a lot of friends that tell me that, I catch it on the drive home. I listen to it at night. I listen to it at the gym. So you're right. It's one of those things where it's a click away, easy to do. Probably better if you subscribe to it just because you get it delivered to you personally. There's not much. We can't make it easier for you than just delivering it to you if you subscribe to the podcast.
By the way, sort of blew by this, and I shouldn't have. When it comes to basketball and just the level of basketball that's played by Canadians, whether it's in this country or quite honestly the hundreds upon hundreds who are playing NCAA basketball, many Division One. But our young kids are doing so well. They go over and they win the under-19, taking out Italy. It was 79-60, I want to say.
Yes, it is.
And the thing that is significant is that these young guys that are just killing it out there. R.J. Barrett was the star of that team. He's from Mississauga. He's at one of the prep schools. I think it's Monteverde Academy, south of the border. He's 6'7", 185, so that 185 is going to change. But a crazy athlete. His dad played in the show for a little bit, played obviously overseas as well. But he has not declared his university yet. He's not declared his university. I mean, in the day, any Canadian would have taken any school that came calling. Here's the list of those schools that have offered him something, including Arizona, Baylor, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Oregon, for some very obvious reasons. Dylan Brooks and everyone else that they've had in Boucher out of Canada, also from UCLA and USC.
Okay, where are you going if you're on that list? You get handed that list and go,
man.
Circle it, Richards. Let's go.
For most kids, I'm saying just straight up, Coach Bill Self in Kansas is going to be really hard to look by. I mean, that is one of the most esteemed programs in all of U.S. basketball history, aside from maybe, a Duke.
Okay, so that's where you'd be going if you were looking at the basketball aspect. What about the social aspect?
Arizona.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was going to say Wildcats all the way.
Yeah. Not Missouri.
No
offending, but I'm just like, hey,
no.
you like the basketballs? Yeah, I like the basketballs. Put down the carrot, and I honestly, I think that, my heart would say if with my background, if this were really, Oregon would be that'd be a bit of a fantasy, and Oregon has an outstanding program, so I think that's also going to get a look as well. I don't think it would be Baylor. I mean, unless you've got some sort of feeling about it. UCLA is a fine program. USC's had its issues from time to time, obviously, but they, I don't know. I think for consistency, I think you're going to take a look at Kansas, Arizona would be the top two on my list. Now, Duke is on here but it has not technically. There's been no offer from Coach K, so no North Carolina in this one either. But you see a lot of Canadians. Okay, a lot of Canadians. So Oregon's been heavy on the list, but Gonzaga has been a big stop for Canadian basketball players as well. But for RJ, he's going to have. We're looking. They're talking about this kid now as being an NBA star. He hasn't even gone to college yet.
Wow.
He hasn't even gone to college yet.
Well, he has the frame for it. He just has to grow into it. Just kind of what you said. But 6'8" shooting guard. Ooh, 17 years old, by the way. Did you watch any of that game, the Italian game yesterday? Because I caught a little bit near the end. And
I was barbecuing all day yesterday.
Okay.
I was.
Why am I not surprised?
Was it Pitmaster yesterday? That's what I was doing, Davey.
Yeah. So it was in Cairo, Egypt. But when they actually won it, and you kind of saw, because it was a different sort of arena that it was in, it almost felt like it was at a dome stadium, but they closed it off just for basketball because it seemed very hollow. And then when Canada won, it almost looked like it turned into a disco because the lights went lower, and then you'd see the and it's like, oh, what are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah. Culturally, sometimes it's like, what is this?
No.
What is this?
And the crowd, of course, because it had nothing to do with any Egyptian teams in there, with Italy and Canada, was very sparse, and that's the part about international play in general. If one of the home teams isn't close in geography, it's pretty damn quiet in there. It's really quiet.
You think in Cairo they're after Indiana Jones is running around and they're having a lovely dessert of chilled monkey brains or whatever. Honestly, I just don't think they're going. Do you want to catch the
Canada-Italy
Canada
final?
Italy basketball game. Come on. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. I know how it works, and I know that movie was completely accurate.
Well, you know what? If you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, then you probably just know, like, you could probably be a tour guide for Egypt. Because that's basically what it is.
I mean,
right?
and here's something else to wreck everything. Now, as soon as they say this name, I'm just going to say once again, do not Google this name. There's an article in ESPN about Greg Oden. So after his body broke down and he turned to pills and alcohol, the self-described biggest bust in NBA history is now seeing how far his mind can take him. So it's a really sort of sad story, but I'm telling you, man, do not Google that name.
No, don't do that.
Russell, you trust me, you don't need to be seeing that. That I imagine there's still probably, children that were on his 6th grade basketball team that have needed out of therapy.
Bigger bust, Jamarcus Russell, Greg Oden.
Oh, Greg Oden.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Even more than Jamarcus Russell.
I think so. I would think even by playing years, Jamarcus Russell probably had I don't know if did he even have one full season?
I was going to say, I don't think he did. I'll look it up here while we're talking. I got it nearby. So
Look, everyone said, hey, but remember that Greg Oden was huge. I'm like, don't say that. Don't like, please. And again, don't Google it, man. You don't want to do it. Don't do it.
No. Okay, so here we have Jamarcus Russell. He appeared in 31 games, not as a starter for 31, but appeared in 31 games. He has 18 career touchdowns, 23 interceptions. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Greg Oden's the bigger bust.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm
just trying to look.
Yeah.
I'm trying to,
like both aren't doing a lot of bragging. And speaking,
No.
Speaking of busts and failure, I mean, Scott Marinovich probably would be almost at the top of that list when people talk about the dismantling of a human being. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, that's you're looking at a guy that, because of his failure as a professional, it also, I mean, he's at 48 years old. He's gonna make a comeback with the SoCal Coyotes. But his father, who was a freak, who played for the Oakland Raiders, I think, back in the 60s, comes up with this Eastern European regimen as a child to basically, and his mother was like a gymnast or something. They called him, well, sort of like Robo quarterback or something like that. And he was like Robo dad. Like there was it almost.
Marv Marinovic.
It's shocking to see exactly what he made his son do growing up. I mean, there's all kinds of stories about what he did as like what he ate. I mean, and here's this. I mean, look, he's been sober since 2016 when he was arrested, when he was found naked in a backyard holding a brown bag containing marijuana, methamphetamines. He was, and then they threw in trespassing. You know what? I'll overlook the trespassing. Maybe the other stuff is not great, but possession of drug paraphernalia, marijuana. I mean, it's just he's going to try to avoid jail, and he's avoided legal troubles for about 36 months. But when I look at Scott Marinovich, I look at just how sometimes the insane desires of a parent. I mean, this is all about parenting. Is really what we're talking about here. I mean, he made his kid run outside the car, like when they go somewhere, like maybe they're going to Huntington Beach or something. You have to run beside the car as we go to another town in California. He made him chew on like meat and stuff when he was a child. Like there's all these crazy, crazy stories. I mean, he wins the Rose Bowl over Michigan in 1989, and since that time, after the reported drug use, I mean, it's just the pressures that these kids are under. And now I'm looking, he's playing for the SoCal Coyotes.
Well, here's the funny thing.
That's not even on the Ocho.
No.
I don't think I even find that on the computer.
He was an assistant coach with the Coyotes last season and says he's super stoked. That's a quote. Okay. Super stoked to be competing for a starting spot against 25-year-old Jacob Russell when practice begins on August the 10th. So the guy he coached last year is what he's going to compete against.
It's just too weird. This is going to end in disaster.
So when you were
He's 48. He's 48, by the way. He's almost 50.
When you were coaching in Calgary football, did you ever sit
Yeah.
there and go, I could do better than these guys?
Actually, I did.
I
I
was
got-
going to say, I can't
Yeah.
blame him.
Yeah, I think you'd be saying the same thing. I'm going, if I was quarterback right now, you wouldn't believe how great I'd do out there. Yeah? How old are you? I'm 45.
I dominate these 16 and 17.
Yeah, I'll come off the defense. I'll come off the line and like, no! I'll water boy it. I'll Bobby Boucher the quarterbacks in high school. That's great. You're 40. That's awesome. That's awesome. The kid doesn't even have his driver's license.
No.
Football is, I'm telling you though, if you ever played it, so I did not get a chance to play it in high school. It was the biggest disappointment of my entire life.
It was fantastic.
But you can't tell me that it's not the greatest feeling in the world, that hard plastic just cranking on someone.
They frown on it these days, but back in the day, honestly, everything about it was cool. Like the whole high school spirit of it, where everybody wears their jerseys on game day.
Oh, that's
The whole
best.
school goes to see it.
You're making out like crazy. Come on, you maybe more than one. Russell, did you play football at all? Did you ever? That's shocking. You never played.
Yeah, I'm astonished. I thought we had ourselves a punter in our room.
Would you be a kicker? I think you'd be an excellent
I think
kicker.
you'd be a kicker. Can you kick a ball? You can kick a ball.
Oh, don't tell us one of your made-up stories, though. I see his eyes kind of going a little bit about.
He's about to.
Oh, well, one time, Mike, I was playing on the national team. You were not on the national team, Russell. Don't. Jeez. Raquel Welch is my girlfriend. Raquel Welch isn't your girlfriend. By the way, I saw a picture of her the other day. Holy fuck, who's that? It was like a Jacques Plante mask with lips. What? It's like it's those housewife things again. The housewives of Daytona Beach, or what do they got going on? Why don't they just call the show what it is? Whores. Just call the show, here's some whores from this city. Here's some whores from that city. These are not vibrant, wonderful people.
They have a Toronto-based show too. Eh?
Oh, they do?
Housewives of Toronto. Yeah,
That's embarrassing.
I know. I'm glad they don't really talk about the Scarborough part of Toronto. But
The Wives of the Havanap. What a dirty show that would be.
there's an idea.
Oh, the lens would be covered in a filmy goo. Oh, no. It would be really bad. Wimbledon apparently still going on, and
Is it?
I don't know.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Andy Murray is beating some guy from France.
Okay.
I'm going to say the name. I've never heard of it.
Nope.
Nadal is playing some guy named Müller. But it's not Germany, so that confuses me. Manarino's playing Djokovic. Okay, so Djokovic I know, and Federer is still playing, eh? How old is he? He could be like 50.
73.
I was going to say,
73.
is he still going with the headband? Because
He is.
that's a tough look to pull
That
off.
is a
that
tough
really
look.
is.
Exactly. Like ever since Kelly Rudy retired, I don't think anybody wears a headband anymore.
Kelly Rudy or the original Mod Squad, or if you were on Room 222. I mean, maybe the headband. I don't.
The thing I didn't like about Kelly Rudy's headband is he wore that ugly looking Jofa goal mask.
Yeah, he hit the combo.
Yeah, I didn't get that. It's
He
like-
still says people come up and
I hated that one.
he goes they're angry with him.
I would be.
Who do you
too.
think you are, man?
Yeah, I know he retired in the 90s, but
he hasn't played, so I'll be like, who the fuck do you think you are, man? He goes, look, I was doing a thing and you're the fucking good. Okay, whatever. He gets it all the time. He lives in Calgary.
Kelly's a good guy.
Oh, he's one of the best guys. One of my favorites.
But why the headband Jofa helmet? Like that'd be my first question.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. I mean, that especially the way that we felt about Europeans, in particular Russians. When that's the first time I ever saw the
wear a
Jofa
Jofa helmet.
First time I ever saw the
The
Jofa
only guy
helmet.
that's allowed to do it is Wayne Gretzky, and I'm also going to give a pass to Marty McSorley because they wore the same sort of helmet.
Yeah.
And they played out.
And they had flow.
Yeah. Well,
They had
did
the
they
flow
ever?
with the Jofa. That's a good look.
Basically, what Kelly Rudy did for goaltending is what Peter Klima did for forwards with that big garbage can type of helmet.
So we're gonna get back at that helmet conversation again. Helmets, masks. I mean, you can talk about it. Jerseys. That's a guy conversation right there that I don't think any
Yep.
woman ever cares to be a part of. By the way, just action that we Victor Newman came in and Victor actually made some picks. He loved the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and
Good call.
he loved the Ottawa Red Blacks, which
Ooh.
I thought was bang on too. But the Argos win that game in Ottawa. I'm like, okay, well, now I'm confused because Calgary goes in and has a great second half and beats the Bombers.
Clobbers them.
But when I look at those buildings, when I look at the facilities, both in Winnipeg and in Saskatchewan, my God, they've done a great job. I mean, I know I've said it before, but I just look at that and think, could that ever be something that happens in Toronto? And if you're being honest, I
They
gotta
have,
say
they
no.
have the facility though.
But and they do have an, yeah, they do have. I
like,
mean,
man.
BMO Field is good, but I don't know what it takes. I mean, does that win have conversation today, Monday morning, in your workplace? If you're talking football at all, do the Argos winning in Ottawa, does that come up on the radar at all? And that's what I find upsetting, because it should, because that's a huge win. Like, that's a massive win. Sure, it knocked me out of the parlay. Yeah, of course I was mad and there's some language after that game happened. But I think it is a big win for a franchise that's just looking anywhere to find some love. And right now, Toronto for CFL football and almost football in general is a pretty cold place.
Yeah. Argos, by the way, travel to Winnipeg for a date with the Bombers on Thursday. The Friday night schedule is Calgary and Montreal. It's a double header, so later that night you'll see Ottawa and Edmonton, a 10 o'clock game, which probably will be a pretty decent game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the highlight of the four-gamer this week. And the Saturday game is BC traveling to Hamilton.
BC's been on the road a
Yeah.
lot. This is like a third week in a row.
Yeah, against the winless Ticats.
Like, this might be one of those ones where you take a look at it and go, okay, 3 weeks on the road for BC, and Hamilton has to win, and they're playing at home. There'll be a lot of people saying, okay, well, if they get points, because Hamilton might get points,
Yep.
they've just got to play some more disciplined football. That's what they got to do. But, hey, football in all senses is coming up. I mean, now that we're into July, there are people sort of sneaking ahead a little bit, Dave. Preseason, not that far away in the NFL. And it's interesting, people taking just a peek ahead when we start talking about gambling, when we start talking those picks. And now, the number that you got in for New England and wins, it was 11.5, right?
Correct.
And then it's gone up, I think.
It's gone up to 12.5.
Yeah. 11.5, I think, is money in the bank. What was the number on that? What do you get on that?
Oh, geez. I'll have to look it up while we talk here.
Because you also have numbers, by the way, with the home run derby, do you not?
Yes, I have home run derby. You want to get to those right now?
Yeah,
I got those right in front of me, and,
and
I'll try to get those other ones.
And I'll tell you what, we haven't done this in a while, and someone said, on Jim Rome, they used to say war something, right?
Yes.
You wore something. So they warred Russell's. Did you see this, Russell? Wore Russell's shit music.
Oh,
I thought that was right. And here we go.
that's really nice.
Listen to this music. Yep.
Okay,
That's shit, all right.
that is.
Let's take a look at those numbers.
So, Home Run Derby starts at 8 o'clock tonight. 8 o'clock tonight. All-Star Game is tomorrow. Jays are off until the 14th, a little bit later on this week, in Detroit against the Tigers. So, Giancarlo Stanton, the favorite. A lot of that has to do with where the game's actually being played and so forth. So, he's paying a $260. It's respectable. It's
That's good money if you're a favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron Judge, my pick is at $280.
That's good. That's good money. I'd be taking Judge.
So he comes in the number 2 spot. Your guy, Cody Bellinger, comes in at 7, at an even 7. That's where I'm possibly looking at a flyer.
Absolutely been on fire. Like, why wouldn't you just take a shot on that?
Yep. Miguel Sarno of the Twins. Yes, him. 21 home runs during the regular season. People are like, who's he? Pretty good player. And one of the reasons why the Twins are kind of in the position they're in, he's paying an 11 even.
See, but that tells you geographically sometimes in sports.
Yeah.
How often you watch the Minnesota Twins?
None.
Like, never.
No.
So if you're in Toronto and you're driving under the Gardner, and what's his name again?
Miguel Sarno.
Yeah. And you run over Miguel, do you stop? Answer is no. You don't stop. Just keep going.
You don't know who
You don't even know who he is.
He might be asking for money.
Why did you do that? No.
And after that, it's kind of a crapshoot between like a Charlie Blackmon, a guy that the Jays were looking at, would have been a nice little outfielder for him. He's paying a 14. He has 19 home runs on the year. Gary Sanchez of the Yankees is paying a 16. The nickname, the Kraken. Gary Sanchez, the Kraken, paying a 16. Also, Mike Moustakas paying a 16 as well.
Moustakas means mustache
That's right.
in Greek.
That's exactly what he means. Justin Bohr of the Miami Marlins also paying a 16. So that's your look at your. I guess that's 8. Is that 8 players? Yeah, there's 8 players involved, and of course they'll have it tournament style where you advance and so forth. And I don't know. It's this is my favorite part of the All-Star break, the All-Star Home Run Derby. They've made some pretty nice changes where it speeds up a little bit. They've had some really good relationships where you see father-son, which is kind of nice.
That is good. I do like that.
And they'll have some really nice stories behind it. Still kind of hokey, too. You'll still have those cheesy interviews and so forth. But for what it's worth, this is my favorite event out of all the gimmicky events going around all sports of all-star festivities. I think this is my favorite.
Does that guy, what was his last name? Gray, worked for ESPN. Always did try to do those.
Jim Gray, yep.
Okay, so he always tries to do these. This trying to get the emotional response and then talking in a voice like this. And I remember Pete Rose was.
Oh, yeah.
And then he was sitting.
That might be one of the most famous ones.
And at the end of the game, it was like, oh, it's a great game. He goes, yeah. Did you bet on Major League Baseball? What the fuck? What?
That's like cut off at the knees.
Yeah, when you hijack a guy like that, regardless of what, that was just the wrong time, the wrong situation. It's on national TV. Pete should have just hammered the guy.
Yep.
And trust me, Pete Rose would be capable of doing that.
Did I ever tell you my story about my brother and Pete Rose?
It wasn't a fight, was there?
No, it wasn't a fight.
Okay.
So here it is.
Because sometimes with Mike, there's a fight.
No, there's a lot of times.
And he wins, which is always good.
Yeah. Well, it's bad if he has a losing record, but he does have a winning record. So Pete Rose, like a lot of you might know, sets up camp in Vegas because he's based out of Vegas for probably 3 or 4 days a week. Pulls out a desk basically and has all his memorabilia that he sells, and he takes pictures for money. He also signs for money,
Yep.
and people line up to see the Hit King, right? Arguably the greatest hitter in the history of Major League Baseball, whether he bet or not or whatever
Doesn't
the hell.
matter.
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
So my brother wanted a picture with him, but of course didn't want to shell out the money to take a picture of him. So just picture this, and I know a lot of you are watching. So Pete Rose is sitting at the desk and so forth. And the way cameras work these days is you can kind of line yourself up properly that it looks like you're sitting beside Pete Rose, but you're really not. So picture me as Pete Rose at a desk.
Yeah.
My brother's with his buddy, and they've probably been out doing things that you do in Vegas.
Yeah, so some cocktails involved.
Having a good time.
There's alcohol.
So off to the far left, my brother crouches to be at head level with Pete Rose, and his friend is in front of him with his phone, and then it's a good play. The friend with the phone yells, "Hey Pete!" So Pete looks over. The guy snaps the picture. My brother shows me the picture, and it looks like Pete is sitting right beside my brother. It's a free picture. Rose started swearing at him and got all mad.
I bet he would.
They take off. They're not running or anything because Pete's not going to track those guys down. But they got the picture of Pete and my brother because Pete turned his head and looked as soon as somebody yelled, "Hey, Pete!"
Oh, my God.
Got the picture, bada bing.
Well, I'm glad they tried that at a memorabilia booth with Pete Rose and not OJ. Because then you're going to get murdered.
I was going to say, that might be a different...
It ends up being a really bad story.
But it's a great story. I applaud that.
By the way, at this time of year where you have downtime, and I have to admit, for oh my God, probably the last 17 years, this is the time of year that I was never on the air. This is where I worked all winter and never took a holiday, but I would in the summer because of some of these events. And someone said, "Are you watching Wimbledon?" The answer, no. I'm never going to do that. How long is Wimbledon on? What is this, month number 3? I fucking hate tennis. I just hate it. Headbands and... Anyway, names you can't pronounce. So someone said, what about the Tour de France? Number one, I'm not saying France. Last time I looked, it was France. Tour de France. But I do have some highlights here from it. I don't really know.
Okay.
I think that this is what they call the hill course. Let's just have a look.
Kind of surprising that we're playing these.
This is how it works. This is... Here it is here. See there... I'm not sure what country he represents. And, it is the hill
Belgium.
course.
Belgium. Yeah, it's a Belgium rider.
And back over the hill. Yeah, that is... Oh, I think this is... he's from India, I think, this boy. And you know the special riding shoes they have there?
Oh, yes, true.
And there's some people... Get those people off the course. Get those people.
There's always fans out
but
there.
I guess he's confused. So I believe he's... he doesn't have the yellow. He doesn't have the yellow jersey on, so he's not the... he's terrible. So there's your highlight today, Tour de France. I actually been watching Chuck Wagons and the rodeo because that's on, and so now Sportsnet has some of that too.
Yes.
So it's easy to find. Oh boy, do I miss me some Stampede action. That is some
Arguably the best party I've been to.
Oh, and people say, "What's it like?" I said, "Oh, you gotta go."
No,
like
you
if it's
just
like it's in Canada. It's funny, there's only so many events that you want to go to in the summer. There's only so many you can get to. But if you've never done it, you have to go. If it's the greatest 10 days on earth, it pretty much is. It's just a lot of fun, and there's a lot to see and do. And of course, there's the actual sort of fairgrounds itself, where every year it's like that TV show. Have you seen that TV show called Carnival Eats?
No.
Oh, it's nothing but carnival food from like all over North America, especially south of the border. So that's where you see people loading up on like meat and then putting like donuts in it. and then we like strangely enough, coming from the States, which is so surprising, it'd be like sprinkles and then like gummies and then bacon, and then there's a sandwich. I mean, carnival food. It's outstanding. Do you have a carnival food you like?
Well...
The Tiny Tom donuts, like they go by different names too.
I was going
right?
to say that was kind of the classic, but now you get them at the corner of King Street East here. You know what I mean?
Can you get the
different places?
The sugared
the
cinnamon
sugar
donuts?
Yeah,
oh my God, those are great.
Little donuts they're called.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that.
Yeah, you're totally not ripping off Tiny Tom donuts.
No,
absolutely not.
No. You know what's cool about those things is you watch them being made in that machine.
Oh, the machine, yeah. Wouldn't it be great to have that in your basement?
Oh, yeah. And that grease that looks like it's been there since like 1986.
I could drink it. I could drink that grease.
and it pops the hole, and then it gets to that one area after it's fried, and it flips. And it flips, and you sit there and you go, I could watch this for the next hour.
And you know what music would have to go on every time you do it? There's a certain music.
Okay, fire.
It'd have to be the music from Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. Boom, boom, boom. Da, 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 da.
Yes.
Yeah. And as the donuts you're making, you're sitting there going, ha ha, ha ha. Oh, by the way, okay, this is not nice to say. This is not nice to say. It's not nice. This is where we get axed. There was a guy who... I don't think I can tell the story.
Okay.
I think this is a very bad story because we have to tell. Okay, here's a good story. Tomorrow.
Pee Wee Herman was in Gotham?
Yeah, because he played the Penguin in the original movie.
Yes, he
was. He played Mr. Cobblepot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, by the way, the guy who plays Oswald? Yeah,
yes,
Oswald Cobblepot. Yeah. He should get an award because he's really, really good.
Awesome.
Tomorrow, there won't be a full show, but we did a remote with the OHL Steelheads there 3 weeks ago, whenever it was. We are going to be up in a beautiful place called Hockley Valley. Now, I think, Russell, we still have the actual banner that we're going to be helping. Aiden's Drive. So it's to stop epilepsy. It's just to end it. And this is part of the fundraising in honor of Aiden. And our good friend Jay Barker has invited us up to the stunning Hockley Valley, also known for beautiful skiing. I think there's even a winery there now, but we'll be up there. Aiden's Drive. We'll be talking to all the fine folks, and we're actually going to golf. So golfing tomorrow apparently is myself, David Bastel, young Russell, and the always amazing Uncle Lou. Some people call him Little Buddha. It will get weird. He'll steal something. I guarantee he's going to take something. There'll be controversy tomorrow with Uncle Lou there. I just know that. He showed me all these bottles of booze that he's going to bring. I'm like, oh, Louie, I don't know.
Oh, boy.
But on the other hand, give me that bottle. Yeah, our friends at 40 Creek are apparently going to be helping us. But it's a gorgeous day. I believe it's sold out now. Going to MC the dinner as always, and we're going to have a lot of fun and hopefully with a great cause. And for Jay, we appreciate the fact that he got a hold of us to do this before we were even on the air.
A long time ago.
We weren't on the air yet.
Like, when do you think he actually reached out?
It might have been in January, February.
I was going to say around the Super Bowl, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it was around that time he said, look, if you guys are doing this, we certainly would like to have you out helping us out. So that officially is our first kind of charity thing we're doing. If you're interested in that, just get a hold of us. If you've registered on rawmikerichards.com or subscribed, that's an easy way to do it. As I said, we got some amazing emails. We had a tremendous week last week. We're looking for more. And during this week, for once, I'm actually going to have a real big announcement. It's pretty cool. Probably do it on Wednesday, I want to say, as many things get changed in the studio. Again, thanks for being patient. But the announcement when it comes through, if you're in a particular city, you're really going to like what I'm going to tell you.
What? We just become best friends? Yep.
It's true.
You want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. It's time!
Once again, if you would like to subscribe and you're watching on the YouTube channel, when that little red banner comes up that says subscribe, sounds weird. People are like, does that work? Yes, it does. Do that. That's a very easy way to each and every day see not only what goes out on the show, but what we're finding is the snippets, or what we like to call promos from the show. They're heavily watched, so do that as well. And actually now, if you follow me on Instagram, at Raw Mike Richards, stuff is starting to go there too. So there's one out there from Jimmy the Bag when he lost $10,000 last year on Wimbledon. What is that? What are you doing? We'll see you tomorrow. Looking forward to Hockley Valley. If you're playing golf, 4